I'm Beth Grant, and you are listening to You Might Know Her From with Ann and Damien.
Cheers. That is the sound of us clinking our glasses in person, which we haven't done. We haven't recorded together since March 15th, 2020. So welcome, listeners, to our first, our return engagement.
We are here together in my home with our intern, who is just beyond, she is over the moon excited to have a guest in our house that she just took a shit on the floor. So what a way to start. Hello and welcome to another episode of You Might Know Her From.
With Damien and Ann.
I am Damien, here with my dog who just took a shit.
I'm Ann. Damien said to me, "What's Ronnie doing over there?" And I said, "Oh, she's looking at the wall. Oh, she's sort of crouching. Oh, she's taking a shit. She's had some stomach problems, poor girl." So, and I empathize because, look, I don't know if I said this here before, but I am now a person who takes a digestive enzyme. So I haven't shit on your floor, but I have shit in your toilet. So
yeah, she is house trained, but yeah, she's having some issues. We gotta get some pumpkin in her food.
She just laid down on my feet. We're not going to talk about it.
If you have never listened to our show before, this is our podcast where we talk about this. We talk about my dog taking a shit on the floor. We talk about pop culture going on. We talk about our aging bodies, our friendship, and then sandwiched between all of our BS is an interview with a great actor.
Ooh, and we are rounding out this, our third season, with episode 90. Can you believe it, folks? I mean, this one is a doozy, but for those of you who haven't listened to the show, for those new listeners, we're going on a little summer hiatus after today's episode. We usually do weekly, and we will, of course, be back weekly in the fall, but take this opportunity to dig into those archives. We're going to be dropping some surprise episodes over the summer, so make sure you're subscribed, all of that jazz. But this week, oh boy, I looked at my notes to see what I had. I keep this tab in a specific to-do app that I downloaded specifically for my life with you. Oh. Because I found that every time I would see you, I would lose track of all the things I had thought of throughout the week. Okay, so I looked at my list, which is titled YMKHF Intro Outro Topics. Things that we talking about that we haven't yet talked about include Cocoon and Jessica Tandy. That's top of the list. A sex dream about Madeline Kahn that I had. Itchy eyebrow. DC Joey gay. That means Dawson's Creek Joey Katie Holmes was her character gay. And also what a dump, which of course I think was a reference back to Drag Race when somebody that was saying what a dump, Denali did not know what a dump came from. So anyway, we haven't addressed any of those things, but I think it just gives you like a little bit of a peek into my mindset.
Your mind grapes.
Of the things that I am here to talk to you about.
Folks, we are let's just say it one last time, over the moon. This week's episode is chef's kiss, folks. It is, when we started this season, we didn't even know how we were going to do it, how many episodes.
If you'll remember, I was recording in my closet. We were talking about dead actresses, and I was recording in my closet back in June with my cell phone.
Yeah, we couldn't even get the microphone and stuff to Ann's at the beginning of the pandemic. And so we've come a long way. We're in the same apartment together now, fully vaccinated, and really excited to introduce this episode because it is with, who else? The great Beth Grant, who really is just,
I had very high expectations for Beth Grant because, as you said, she sort of encapsulates what our podcast is about. I think she is the most recognizable You Might Know Her From. I think people should know her name, but if you don't, her name's Beth Grant. She has been in 1,000 things that are so good. She has the most IMDb credits of anyone we've ever interviewed on this show, upwards of 200. And I think the next closest was Mary Kay Place. Beth Grant was one of those people that we were like, oh, we jived with from the beginning. She was so kind and generous and thoughtful. And then, as we always ask you to respond to our blind items at the end of each episode, dearest Colleen, who's been with us from day one, sent us a DM and said, oh my God, is next week's episode Beth Grant? We revealed, yes, it is. And she said, when I used to wait tables in the West Village, Beth Grant came in and I didn't reveal that I knew who she was until I handed her the check. And I just said, I love your work. And she was so gracious and thoughtful and said, I'm doing this play actually, and they're auditioning for an understudy. You're an actor. You should come and audition. Proved herself to be the person that we were speaking speaking to, which is just nice to know that when you're a good person across the board, and Beth Grant was charming as fuck.
A total class act. You might know her from No Country for Old Men,
The Mindy Project,
Donnie Darko,
Little Miss Sunshine,
Child's Play 2,
Speed,
Rain Man,
The Artist,
Sordid Lives,
and To Wong Foo, Thanks for Everything, Julie Newmar. Okay, wow. We really had a full direction here with legendary actor Beth Grant, but I'm going to tell you, we're pivoting everything because Beth just informed us that she is looking at apartments in New York. Beth Grant, first of all, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I am so glad to finally meet you and see your beautiful faces. We were supposed to do it in person, and I actually last year, I don't know if you remember, I had sublet an apartment, and we were due to move in March.
Perfect
Guess
timing.
what happened? So now we are looking seriously at apartments. So I want to get back. I have a play that I want to produce, and I want New York back. I miss it. Miss you guys.
Okay. Beth Grant, we were so excited. We know you from thousands of films and TV shows, but Damien discovered this brilliant tidbit, which is that you auditioned as a replacement Violet for the Broadway production of August Osage County, a role that eventually went to Estelle Parsons.
Wow.
But you've worked consistently in Los Angeles theater, but do you have ambitions to still do Broadway? You're thinking of coming to New York. What can we expect?
Oh my goodness. I want to come. It's so weird. My husband says, Beth, you live in Los Angeles. You've been here 40 years. But I still think of myself as at least an adopted New Yorker. Obviously, I'm from the South, but I have a play that I've written, and guess what it's called? The New York Way.
Excellent.
And it's it's a love story about New York, really. It's coming of age in 1969 in Greenwich Village. I want very much to do it. I have a fantasy place I want to do it. I have it all in my mind. And we've done many, many rewrites and had many, many readings. And there's still, I need to cut some. But I really am hoping to do that. And how in the heck did you find out about August Osage County? That's crazy that you knew that.
Yeah, you talked about it in an interview, and it was like, of course, this makes so much sense that you would have been like up for that show and like would have been up for that movie because you're a Southern character actress, and that show is all about like Southern women and a Southern family.
Well, it's so funny because I didn't remember talking about it, but yes, when they called me, I was on the next plane to New York, to audition, and I was so prepared, and I had worked on it in my acting class, and I know that woman, and I felt her, and I thought she was fabulous, by the way. I wasn't really out to change anything she did, just sort of channel my own version of her. Felt very prepared, and I felt there was a real chance. And I got to the audition, and there was Estelle Parsons. And I thought, that's kind of what I'm doing. She even had the same hairdo. I had made little bangs for myself, and I had this one. I said, oh, that's kind of what I'm doing. And she has an Oscar. Nonetheless, I did not flinch. And I did it, and I did it great. And my agent called me afterwards, and she said, well, there's only one person we have to kill. And that's Estelle Parsons. And that, to me, was a huge compliment, that there was any hesitation at all. I don't know who was wanting me and who was insisting on her. I don't know how that shook out, but I agreed with their decision. Who could argue with that? And I saw her later do the role at the Taper in LA, and she was fabulous. Come on, so didn't get that. Then I auditioned in the movie, not for that role, but for the Margot Martindale role. Mm-hmm. That audition, the casting director told me, he said, well, as soon as you left the room, John Wells said, that's a brilliant actress. And I thought, so I'm not getting the role.
You've heard that before, yeah.
You can tell. I one time, I'm going to get off on a tangent here, but it just goes to show it has to be about the work. It can't even be about getting the job. When you audition, it better be doing it your way and having fun doing it, and doing it to meet new people and to spread the joy around, because even when you nail it, I had this one audition, I don't remember, it was some limited series. And when I finished, I promise you, they stood up and gave me a standing ovation. They had tears coming down the cheek, standing ovation. Didn't get it. Didn't get it. That went to Karen Black. Hard to argue with Karen Black. Hard to argue with Karen Black. Another time, it was Bastard Out of Carolina. Angelica Houston was directing. Finished the audition. She stood up. She took my hand in her hands, and she said, "Thank you. Thank you." I left. I called my agent. Not getting it. She said, "What are you talking about?" I said, 100% not getting it. She felt bad that I wasn't going to get it because she's an actor and she's human, and she knew I did my work, but they had an offer out. Grace Zabriskie that time. It's okay, you know. We're all in the same club, all of us. Sometimes it's my lucky day and sometimes it's not. But I would still, oh my God, I can't believe you brought that up. It brings tears. I want to do August Osage County. I've thought about calling my college and seeing if they might do it, you know, just to get to do it. Mm-hmm. They had called me about doing it at the Alley Theater and I wasn't available. And I was like, oh, I know that play and I have a destiny. I just know it. But anyway, I didn't even know I'd ever talked about it before. So there you go.
Our audience probably best knows you from thousands of projects over the last 3 decades, but one of the things we love most is discovering how you made the decision to become a professional actor at the age of 33. It's something that is kind of uncommon in a business that sort of puts a premium on youth. As someone who went to theater school myself and was told by a professor that the entire program sees you as the nurse in Romeo and Juliet, like the nurse is a great role, but you're never going to get a romantic lead, I was particularly moved by hearing your journey of becoming a character actress. Can you tell us what was the best and worst part of entering the business as a full-fledged adult woman?
Wow. You are my sister.
Yes.
Yeah, I hear you loud and clear. Me too. Well, I had tried to act and I had done a little bit. You know, I had a theater company in New York and we did a premiere of Romulus Linney's play Holy Ghost at the now, I think it's a CVS pharmacy on Bleecker Street called, what was it? Garrick Theater, the Garrick Theater. So, I mean, I had tried it. I had worked some. But yes, you're correct. And so I had earned a living doing other things. In fundraising, I was a celebrity coordinator for Jimmy Carter in 1976, and I had produced a documentary for the White House Council on Aging. I had worked in so many different jobs. Finally, what happened when I was, yes, indeed, 33, I was producing a piece for a show called Real People, a television show called Real People, and we were at a luncheon at 20th Century Fox for the Olympic athletes for 1984. So I guess this was 1983, but the launch had started, and there was a documentary filmmaker named Bud Greenspan, and he produced every 4 years, he would produce documentaries about the athletes striving for the goal. And they showed us a clip reel of some of his footage from previous years. So I suppose this would have been 1980. And there was an African runner, long distance runner, who everyone thought was going to get the gold. He was the most prepared. Everybody thought this is his gold. And he started running and he pulled his Achilles tendon. And he didn't quit. Still makes me cry. He walked the race. He walked that 26 miles. And he took him, a couple of days. And the race was long over. He walked into the stadium and the whole stadium stood and cheered for this man. So he didn't get the gold, but he won the race, And I started crying and I couldn't stop crying. And I finally left. I went over to the guy that was shooting for us and I said, I got to go back to the office. And I said, you got it, right? And he said, yeah. I mean, they always did their own thing anyway. So I went back to the office, couldn't stop crying. And I said to my assistant, I got to go home. And she said, is there anything I can do? No, I just got to go home. Cried all the way home. Got home, picked up the phone, called my best friend, Karen Grassley. You may know her as the mom on Little House on the Prairie. Mm-hmm. And I called her up and I heard myself say, I can't not act anymore. And she said, well, it's about time. As though she had been waiting for me to say it. She knew. And she said, and this is what you're going to do. You're going to get in a proper class, and you're going to study, and you're going to embrace this. I don't know what else she said. So I said, okay, I'm ready. I don't care what I have to do. I'm going to do it. The very next day, I was having lunch with Alan. Oh, gosh, what was his real name? Gurwitz was his real name. Alan Garfield was, I think, his professional name. He went back and forth. But anyway, we were having lunch. And I said, Alan, you're not going to believe this, but I'm going to be an actress. And he says, oh. And we start talking about it. And he said, well, who do you admire? Who do you want to have a career like? And I said, oh, I'm not going to tell you. He said, oh, come on, tell me. I said, no, I can't tell you. He said, well, write down her initials. So I wrote down MS. And I was thinking Meryl Streep. And he looked at it and he said, oh, Maureen Stapleton. So I was thinking, no. But he invited me to his class. He studied with a master teacher, Milton Gonzalez. He said, come to class on Saturday. Well, that was the very week. I mean, this is a little bit of a story. But anyway, that was the very week that Tennessee Williams died. And Milton had worked with Tennessee, was friends with Tennessee. He had done Small Craft Warnings in New York. I think at the theater, also on Bleecker Street. I'm trying to think of the theater. Maybe Top of the Village Gate or something. Anyway, very dear friend of his. So first of all, the class is so brilliant. I've never seen a teacher like this. He's like a doctor with a laser beam. He just knows how to, give great critiques. And so I'm already very excited. And then at the end of the class, he stands up. And he gives a eulogy for Tennessee Williams. And here I am, Southern actress, He gave this eulogy. And at the end of it, he said, Tennessee, I hope you're up there having your martini dry with a twist. And whatever. He said, we love you. And then he paused and he said, Tennessee Williams. And he walked from the theater. So I knew I found my teacher. After all, I'd had good teachers previously, like you, I mean, you have these teachers, but you don't want to do what they want you to do. And
right.
So anyway, I got in that class, and he's the one that surrendered me. He said, why do you keep trying to be a Rolex watch when you're the salt of the earth? And he said, why do you look down your nose at Maureen Stapleton and Colleen Dewhurst, and named a bunch of others? And I said, I don't look down my nose at them. He said, oh, yes, you do. You don't think the roles they do are good enough for you. So I surrendered. And then I was doing a scene with Patrick Swayze and another actress you might have heard of, Darlene Flugel, and Cal Bartlett.
Patrick Swayze was in your acting class.
This was, a scene for, what a class we had. You can't even imagine. George Clooney. Actually, George was in the Monday, Wednesday, and I was in the Tuesday, Thursday, Michelle Pfeiffer. I mean, on and on. Just incredible. He produced a lot of great people, taught us how to direct ourselves, taught us our casting. And that was the big thing. So anyway, I started crying because the guys were paying too much attention to beautiful Darlene Flugel. And Patrick came over and said, what's wrong? And I said, I don't want to be a character actress, whatever. He said, don't you know Colleen Dewhurst is beautiful? Don't you know Maureen Stapleton is beautiful? So we did very successful work. We did a couple of scenes from Virginia Woolf very successfully in class. In fact, the teacher said at one point he had never seen a scene that good ever in any class. I mean, I'm not kidding. Could we do it again? I don't know. We kind of hit it that night. You know how it goes. You see the best scenes in the world in class,
right.
Not necessarily in the work. Then later when we did To Wong Foo, there was a scene after the girls come to town and fix us all up, and I was coming down the stairs and I'm all done up, and I was doing it very campy and throwing my bow over my shoulder. And Buddy came over, whispered in my ear, and he said, maybe this is kind of like that day in rehearsal. And then I immediately got tears in my eyes. And we only had one take left. And I did it coming down the stairs more vulnerable. And that's because of him. And that's the one they used. So, it was quite a journey. And some days I still don't want to do it. I don't. I have a flinch. I think, why don't I get to look good? I'm pretty,
Yeah.
But I love it most of the time, honestly. Who else is going to tell these stories? They need people like us to tell those stories. Michelle Pfeiffer can't do it.
All the women that you mentioned are our favorites, So, I mean, you're in great company.
Yeah, Thelma Ritter.
Ugh.
I mean, come on.
Yeah.
God, to have her career.
Right.
All about Eve alone, if she never did anything else but that movie. So, yeah, I'm in good company, and I'm very honored to be there. I'm very honored to be there.
Okay, so Beth, you've been dubbed Hollywood's Lucky Charm, having appeared in memorable roles and a number of Best Picture winners and nominees. So you were Carla Jean's mother in the Coen Brothers' No Country for Old Men. You were the farmhouse mother in Rain Man. You were Pepe's maid in The Artist. You're the pageant official in Little Miss Sunshine. And you even provide a voice in Rango, which won an Oscar for Best Animated Feature in 2011. Did you have a feeling that any of these would be such a critical darling? And was there ever a film that you were sure would score a Best Picture nom that didn't?
Great question. Yes, I had a premonition that Rain Man was going all the way. I just did, and I didn't even read the script. I had the sides, and I knew it was Dustin Hoffman and Tom Cruise, and I thought, oh, this is lightning in a bottle. I feel it. Mm-hmm. And so I was so thrilled to get that part. I've got many stories about Rain Man. If we have time, I'll go back to it. But to answer your question, also, No Country for Old Men. I knew it was a masterpiece. I said, oh my God, this is their masterpiece. Because Cormac McCarthy, Coen Brothers, again, lightning in a bottle. And the funny thing about that was I had the first audition, went great. Loved them. We got along well. Didn't hear anything for a couple of months. And then I got a call on a Thursday to come in on a Saturday. And they wanted to tape me. And I couldn't do it. I had a commitment with Gina Davis's, I think it was called Go Girls Go or Girls, Girls, Girls. She does a lot of work with sports for girls, and the gold medal soccer team was going to be there, and a celebrity golf tournament. My daughter, who was the All-Stars goalie, was going with me, and she was bringing one of her soccer friends. There was no way I could cancel. I mean, who would I be then? I would have no integrity if I canceled. So my husband, this was back in the day before people taped themselves. My husband said, we'll just tape you. We'll tape you. And so my daughter, who was at the time, I think 12, read the lines off camera. And we had one of those little VHS things, and he recorded it. I did my best. And he was so afraid that they wouldn't get it that he drove it himself to Paramount Studios and talked his way on that lot and put it on their desk because he did not trust anybody to deliver it. And Monday morning, they called it. I got it.
Oh,
so it was very risky because I did think it would be. But I have to say, as good as I thought it would be, I underestimated how good it could be. Because I love their work so much anyway. Miller's Crossing was one of my favorites always, and just so many films. But I think it's a perfect film. I've watched it now. I mean, it's one of our go-to movies like Godfather 1 and 2 that we go to watch because it's perfect.
Yeah.
And they're not using music. You know, there's only a couple of little, we hear radio, that's it. What a bold choice they made. At the end of the night at the premiere, there wasn't a sound in that audience. Nothing. For 30 seconds. I mean, it was a long silence. And then cheers. And so you go, oh, thank God. Because you don't know. I had that happen at Cannes, too, with James Franco's As I Lay Dying. It was over. Nothing. And then a standing ovation that lasted 7.5 minutes. So it was quite a relief.
Can I ask, you said you had a lot of great Rain Man stories. Of course, you play the sort of pioneer woman where Dustin Hoffman has to be taken into the house to watch Judge Wapner before he has a meltdown. Can you tell us how method was Dustin Hoffman during that scene? It's a pivotal, it's like a famous scene, but was he so intensely in it while he was in the living room?
Well, yeah, but he also, between takes, he was fun. In fact, I had asked the camera department for a diaper because I had 6 kids, and I thought, oh, she might be drying her dishes. If all the dish towels are dirty, maybe she'll use a fresh diaper to dry her dishes. So I had a diaper in my hand, and it was wet. And that was a little thing I did for myself. Well, at one point, he took it away from me and chased me around the porch, popping me on the butt with it, not in a sexually harassing way, just fun,
Fair.
And he can pass gas on cue.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah. And it sounds a little gross, but it was hilarious. It was hilarious because it was just this little... but he can do it. So I don't think that was Raymond. I think that was Dustin Hoffman.
For sure.
But he was so wonderfully supportive and kind and generous with me because it was my first big movie. I mean, I'd done 2 little tiny movies, but at one point I saw it, a lot of it was improvisational. One reason was that it was a Writers Guild strike. And so, scenes that would have been rewritten and fine-tuned, no doubt. But Barry was working with the writer very closely. So he didn't let us do anything. But, he knew how to shape it. So it wasn't like he wasn't honoring the writer by any means. He was helping to tell the story.
Sure. One
time I looked out the kitchen window and I could see the back of Tom and I could see Dustin's hands going like this, but I couldn't see Dustin. And yeah, they were having a great time together. But he did tell me, I went to watch them shoot another scene. And I was reading a book at that time, this metaphysical book by Phil Lout called Money is My Friend, because I was trying to get my finances together. And he came over as Raymond, and he goes, money is my friend, money is my friend, money is my friend. And so he was still kind of finding him. And he wasn't like in it. No, he was totally a professional actor and totally fun and terrifically supportive to me. And I was bold in that. I had said I didn't want to wear any makeup. And I wish I could think of his name, Rick something, very famous makeup artist. And I went to him, I said, Jack Nicholson doesn't wear any makeup. And I think I should be able to not wear makeup. And he said, abracadabra, you're done. So he let me just put my hair in a ponytail. So I didn't know any better. I didn't know to be intimidated by all that, really. So I did what I wanted, and they let me and supported me in it. So it was pretty magical, pretty great. But I had a visualization, a meditation when I was trying to accept myself as a character actress, which, as you know, is a bitter pill to swallow. And in the meditation, I had asked my inner guide to take me to the energy that was blocking me from accepting myself as a character actress. And he took me to this White House in the country. I knocked on the door, and this woman, me, in a house dress with a ponytail, no makeup, came to the door and said, "We've been waiting for you." And I knew when I came out of the meditation that it was all those characters. And here I am, White House in the country. They come to the door. I open the door. Spooky.
Yeah, that is very cool. Okay, Beth, you played Bad Nurse Beverly on Mindy Kaling's sitcom The Mindy Project. And you've talked a lot about how much you love and admire Mindy and how you had created a vision board with her photo on it right before landing the gig. At that point, you were already like a well-established actor, appearing in Oscar-winning films, cult favorites, ton of TV and theater credits. So how did The Mindy Project change your career? And if it's not The Mindy Project, what is the role that you most get recognized for?
Well, the one I get recognized for the most for is Donnie Darko. Those are the rabid fans. And I think what happens is that each generation passes it down to the next generation. And so that audience is actually kind of growing over the years. So that's the answer to that question. And I have never doubted your commitment to sparkle motion, may I say.
Thank you.
But with Mindy, what happened, I guest starred on the show and fell hopelessly in love with her. And I'm not kidding. I watched her work and I said, oh my God, she's writing, she's producing, she's starring. And she did this tiny little thing that she, as her character, laid on the floor in her office. And I have done that. When I was working in production, when I worked at George Schlatter Productions, I often would shut my door and lie on the floor because I would just be so overwhelmed. And I don't know if men do it, but also I know Michelle Willens, the writer Michelle Willens, when I worked with her in the Carter campaign, often I would walk into her office and she'd be on the floor. So I knew it was a very specific choice, and I have never seen it at that time in any other movie or TV show. So that's when I really felt that I loved her. She was a genius. And I had this overwhelming maternal instinct that I wanted to help her in her journey, which is pretty arrogant. I didn't really know what a genius she was and how fully capable of taking care of herself she was. But I felt this maternal instinct, like, I've got to help her. I've got to help her. Does everybody see how brilliant she is? Do you people know? I came home that day, and my Emmy magazine had come with her picture on the cover. And I got a board. My husband gave me one of his art boards, and I pasted it, and I put it behind the china cabinet. Forgot about it. And then I still, was hoping to guest star. And I, in fact, was doing Mockingbird Lane with Brian Fuller, and I thought I was going to end up being a regular on that and being Eddie Izzard's sidekick. So that was my plan. And I thought, well, maybe I'll occasionally be on the Mindy Project because I wanted to help her. I wanted to be of service to her. Okay. The day that they called and asked me to be a regular, I really was humbled would be not big enough word for how I felt. And I felt so spooky because I made that vision board. But it wasn't my intention putting her picture on there. It was just, I want to support this feminine voice. She is the woman that we dreamed of in the 70s. This is who I want to support, this artist and this unique voice. So anyway, years go by, and what happens is she has been of service to me far more than I have to her. And she, I think, gave me a name. I think that people started putting my name to my face because now people seem to really know my name. In the very beginning, I was at an airport and somebody said, "Are you Beth Grant?" And you could have knocked me over with a feather because no one had ever said. They would say, "Were you in Donnie Darko, Time to Kill," whatever it was. And I said, something has clicked. Something has changed.
Okay, Beth.
Yes.
You notably collaborated with Del Shores on the film version of his play, Sordid Lives, and then the continuation Logo series. Then you starred in his play, The Trials and Tribulations of a Trailer Trash Housewife, which you won an LA Drama Desk Award for. So the play was later adapted into the film Blues for Willa Dean, co-starring Octavia Spencer and Dale Dickey. Can you talk about your collaborations with Del, whose films have a uniquely Southern gay sensibility, and also what it was like to be the lead of a film?
Oh gosh. Well, Del's a genius. I mean, he rips it from the fabric of life. I mean, these are people that he knows or he's close to someone who knows them. And I mean, saying his dialogue is just the sweetest experience. Del and I don't know if it's familial or what it is. We love each other to death, but it is sometimes difficult. It's challenging because we're both working at this fevered pitch and we have ideas and we're throwing things around. However, I think we probably, if we work together now, not as much because that was many years ago when we first started working together. I've always loved him. I've always respected him. And I've always done what he tells me to do in the end. But I have sometimes resisted. And he expects a lot from his actors. In fact, when we were doing Trailer Trash, I didn't want to do the role, first of all. I said, I think this is better for Dale Dickey. Let me play the waitress. He said, I wrote this for you. Don't you think I know how to write for you? I was like, well, yeah. And actually, as my acting teacher, I was talking about it and telling him about the role. And I said, I don't want to play a victim, domestic violence. I don't want to play a victim. And he said, well, is she trying to change? I said, yes. As a matter of fact, she looks up a word in the dictionary every day, and she is trying to. He said, doesn't sound like a victim to me. And I was like, oh, okay, right. He's right. And then I said, whatever I said, and he said, sounds to me like you're afraid of this role. You just need to do the work. He called it fear of confronting that stuff in myself, the victim inside of me. And I was saying, I would never be a victim of domestic violence. It couldn't happen to me. And so what I had to do, and I heard him, and I called Dale that afternoon. I said, yeah, I'm in. I want to do it. Yeah, I adore Dale. I think he's a genius. I think of his writing. I miss his writing. Often I will be working on something with somebody else, and I'll think, oh, Dale would know what to do with this. He would know exactly this character. And meanwhile, I'm struggling to try to express myself, and I think I wouldn't even have to say that to him. So, I think that, I don't even want to call it friction because that sounds bad, but that kinetic is the best word, that kinetic energy that we both have, and the fact that there is some DNA familial connection with us.
Yeah. All right, Beth, we've reached the point in the show that we like to call the rapid fire. It's rapid fire for Damien and I. You can take as much time as you need. It just allows us to fire off some non sequiturs at you. Okay. Beth, according to IMDb, some of your character names have been Church Lady, Cat Lady, Coupon Lady, Landlady, Laundry Lady, and the pièce de résistance, Lady Bird Johnson. What kind of prep did you do to play Lady Bird in Jackie, and is she your de facto favorite First Lady?
You know what? I love her. Is she my favorite? I don't know. I think that has to be Michelle Obama. But
yeah,
I really do like Lady Bird. And she has been underappreciated in my view. She was actually, environmentalist. And back then it was planting flowers and shrubs. But she really did plant those blue bonnets all over Texas and did a lot of stuff for saving the environment. And she was a businesswoman. She was a feminist. I mean, she owned a radio station. I mean, she did inherit money, but she made it work. And she made a lot more. And she was right there beside him every step of the way. So I do think, her argument with Eartha Kitt aside about Vietnam, I think Eartha Kitt was right, hit a really sore point about Vietnam. And, so many of the soldiers dying on this in Vietnam were Black. And so I think good for Eartha Kitt speaking up. Yeah. But I would say with that one exception, because she loved her husband so much. And I think that really was it. She had blinders a little bit. But then again, she got him to retire,
Yeah. It was a thrill to get to see you play Lady Bird, honestly, in Jackie.
Oh, thank you. Well, I had dreamed of doing it, and my dear friend Robert Schenken, of course, had done All the Way on Broadway, and I thought, oh, gosh, I wish I could have done that. And then he was doing the miniseries. In fact, I gave a dinner party for him, and we were outside under my avocado tree with lights and dinner, and I'd invited all my favorite friends because I adore him. I just think he's a real inspiration to me. And he said, well, we got Melissa Leo. And not that I wanted it. I didn't know that it was even going to be, they expanded the role for his TV movie. I never was giving the dinner party to get that part, but I just felt my heart go, oh my God, and I didn't want to be a damper because, I was excited for him. He got Melissa Leo, and she was terrific, by the way. And then a couple months later, my agent called and said, well, we've got this movie playing Lady Bird Johnson. And I started screaming. And she said, with Natalie Portman. And I screamed again. And she said, shooting in Paris. And I went, ah! I couldn't say yes quick enough. And I thought, okay, HBO movie, shooting in Paris with Natalie Portman. HBO. I think it worked out. And I was so glad that I behaved like a true friend with him, because I felt the universe sort of gave me this reward because I was happy for him. I wanted this movie to be a success, of course. So anyway, I am appreciative of that. And I thought about doing a one-woman show about her, and I did a little research. But, it's funny. There's not any huge obstacle or conflict, or it's just a sweet story in a lot of ways.
In Child's Play 2, you play Miss Kettlewell, who Chucky kills when he stabs you with a ball pump, injecting your lungs with air, and then beats you with a ruler. Please tell us, was it the ball pump or the ruler that really did Miss Kettlewell in?
I think it was a yardstick. Yeah, I think that was a yardstick. Although I think that she was definitely gasping for air, so it probably was unnecessary. She probably would have eventually died, but I do think, based on the fact that I was pretty awake when that, Chucky came at me. Who, by the way, when you're recording that, there's 7 puppeteers coming at you.
Oh my God.
And the doll. And they're coming like this, and you've got to,
Oh, it's my favorite.
Try to be realistic.
I love it so much.
I love Don Mancini so much, who created that franchise. Good Lord. He has really done, it's amazing what he created. It really is. Still happening. They have a series now.
I know, it's wild.
The Sordid Lives universe is full of screen legends, including the aforementioned Delta Burke, Rue McClanahan, who played your sister on the TV series, and Olivia Newton-John. What is the best story you can share with our listeners about one of those icons?
Well, it's just a sweet story about Rue McClanahan, but does it have to relate directly to Sordid Lives?
No.
She's an angel, and now really an angel for us. I did Picnic with her, Contrada Farrell, Dana Hill, Gregory Harrison, Jennifer Jason Leigh, Michael Learned.
Oh, what a cast.
And Van Patten.
Joyce Van Patten?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. The
Talia Balsam.
Her brother. Who is Joyce
Dick Van Patten.
Dick Van Patten. I was trying to think, who else am I leaving out? Brady Rubin. Oh, my God, I'm seeing a face in the... it'll come. I'll be back to you on that one.
Okay.
Anyway, we were doing that play, and it was a big, big deal for me. Marshall Mason from Circle Rep was directing. And to work at the Amundsen, it's not Broadway, but it's as close as we have. And at that time, I think there were 3,000 seats. They've since reduced some of the seats, and we did out-of-town tryout in Denver, and Rue was playing the mom. So for opening night, I had told this story about being a little girl and seeing people come back from New Orleans and having those glass beads from New Orleans. At the time, now they're plastic, but back then they were glass. And how I longed for those glass beads. And oh my God, they were just, I still felt that if I could only get those glass beads, somehow my life would be complete. Well, she didn't find Mardi Gras glass beads, but she walked all over Denver and found a crystal necklace for me, glass beads, that she gave me on opening night. And I mean, that's the kind of woman she is. She's just so generous and kind. I later worked with her on Golden Girls. She treated me like a queen. I did 2 episodes, but the first one I had this huge monologue to deliver. I was scared to death. And she came over and she said, don't learn your lines the first 2 days. They're going to change. And it'll mess you up. So I was scared, but I followed her direction. Sure enough, we got rewrites. So, and she just, greeted me with love and affection. So everybody knew that I was okay, and said I just did picnic with her at the Amundsen. And then on the show, that little funny hat she made on Sordid Lives?
Yeah.
She made that hat. And she made all of her hats. She had this image of that little hat. I guess she'd seen it growing up in Oklahoma. And she did do it. She came to see me in Sordid Lives, the play. She came to see us, and I think she met Dale that night, and that's probably where that seed was planted.
I love that.
You've talked about performing in star packages at the Westchester Country Playhouse in the 70s, where Broadway stars would tour the country in esteemed productions. You got your equity card, in fact, doing Follies with Vivian Blaine, who was, of course, the original Adelaide in Guys and Dolls. You also apparently did a show with Shelley Winters. Do you remember the show, and what kind of star was she?
Woo, baby. The wildest thing. I loved her. But I wasn't in that one.
Okay.
But I'm going to just talk out of school here if I go get in trouble. Shelley, I loved you. I loved you. But I somehow, I don't know if it was because nobody else wanted. I would roll her hair at night. And she would sit there in a kimono naked, and she was very free. I'll put it that way. She had studied, at the studio, and she was very free. And there I was, this very young, actress working in the costume department. And somehow I became like her assistant for that 10 days or whatever it was. One time I worked on props too. I did props. And I was head of the prop department, and she was on stage. We were doing Man in the Moon Marigolds, and it was on its way to Broadway, actually. She was hoping to get to Broadway, and it did. But she was very precise. You talk about, she wanted her props, and she wanted everything exactly right. And a lot of us were young. So this one person had forgotten to put her tea kettle on. And so I saw that it wasn't there, and I immediately told the stage manager, we'll get it on. And we knew we could get it on in the next blackout before she needed it. So it was okay. But she spotted that damn thing wasn't there. She walked off stage, and she came to me, and I looked her in the eye. I said, Shelley, we're going to put it on in the blackout. It's okay. And she starts making these sounds, processing it, okay. And she got it, and she walked back on stage. But while she was off stage, this little actress, Lisa Richards, who's one of the leaders in the Actors Studio now, Lisa Richards played her daughter. When she walked off stage, Lisa Richards said, "Where are you going, Mama?" And she said, "I'm going to check on Nanny," who was this character. And there was Lisa all alone on stage. And to her credit, God bless her, she started dancing and singing. She just started going, la, 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 la. And backstage, I'm going, we're putting it on in the blackout. La, 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 la. But she came off that stage at the end of the play. And the girl that had forgotten it, we were all scared to death of her. I wasn't, but everybody was kind of standing there. And she starts walking by, and that girl started laughing. She was giggling. She was nervous. And Shelley said, "Get out of this theater, you amateur. You don't belong in a theater. This is our church." And she kicked her down the hall out the door. It's true.
I respect it. I respect it.
Now, you cannot do that today. But in I guess that was 72, you could do that. She kicked her in her butt down the hall and out the door. That's the truth.
Oh.
But respect, right?
Love her
Yeah,
Nobody was going to disrespect the theater in her presence. She wasn't going to put up with it.
God bless her.
That's much. But I loved her. And when she left, people weren't speaking to her. They were mad at her. And she knew, But I loved her. I hugged her and kissed her. I was honored to work with her. And I loved rolling her hair every night. And I wanted to do anything I could to make her job easier. She was brilliant in the play. And she reminded me of my mother, truth be told.
Okay. Beth, who is more serious? Kitty Farmer about Sparkle Motion in Donnie Darko, or pageant official Jenkins about the Little Miss Sunshine pageant?
What a great comparison. Let me think for a second. And the winner is... I guess Kitty. Although, come on. It's a tough choice. You really came up with a good one. I never thought of them as similar women, but my God.
Interesting.
The reason I lean toward Kitty is because hers was so deeply personal. Mm-hmm. Deeply personal. Whereas I would say that pageant official Nancy Jenkins, it was more professional and about the show. And if that hadn't worked out, she probably would have gone on and created something else she could control.
I love
Whereas
that.
Kitty was devastated. I don't know what Kitty was going to do at the end of that movie. She was in trouble. So,
Beth Grant, last question.
No! This is too much fun. I love looking at your faces.
This has been so fun. Okay, bear with us. In the X-Files, you played a fundamentalist who is bit to death by snakes. In Willy's Wonderland with Nick Cage, you get cut in half by an animatronic puppet. In 6 Feet Under, you get killed by a car as you run towards the rapture. And in Speed, you are blown off the bus and rolled down the highway to your death. Beth Grant, what was your favorite on-screen death?
I guess Speed. It was my favorite. Because I mean, it's funny that we even answer that. The reason I say Speed is that there's so many stories about Speed, but one of them is that Keanu did his own stunts. And then once he did his own stunts, Hawthorne James decided to do his own stunts. And I thought, I'm doing mine. Now, here I was, a new mother. My daughter was 9 months old. I don't know what I was thinking. I mean, they had me strapped in. I don't think there was any way I could have fallen off that bus if I'd taken a leaping jump. I don't think it would have pulled me back. Still, we were going 55 miles an hour, And as I'm reaching for those guys, it looked a little different in the movie, but it felt to me like, I could die. It really did. So that's why I say the favorite. And it's pretty funny when you see her foot go up by the frame.
So you don't think you're going to see any more, and then it's like, oh, she's rolling down the highway.
Yeah. She's rolling down the highway, that leg's in the air. And so that tickled me. And she was such a whiner. I was so glad when she died. I just thought, oh, get that whiner off this bus. And I felt it at the premiere. I never watched it again until about a year ago. It wasn't the script. I signed up to do. The original Graham Yost script had much more backstory for all of us. And it was more Poseidon adventure, speaking of Shelley Winters, with the backstory. And then I was a likable character, first of all. I wasn't whining. I had just gotten engaged. I had a little puppy. I was friends with the Sandra Bullock character. She was doing stand-up. I had been to see her show the night before.
Oh.
Hawthorne James, the driver, had a heart attack, and I gave him CPR, and I was courageous and volunteered to get on the platform to be the first one off the bus. Very different. And Joss Whedon did the rewrite. In fact, when I did Angel, I said to Joss, I said, "So you ruined my part on screen."
Good.
But I said, but it was a hit. And I felt that, he's uncredited, which is still, I think, I don't know if it is now, but at the time he said, yeah, and I didn't get a credit. But that's what the studio wanted. They wanted a popcorn movie. They didn't want to drag out all these stories. They wanted to get that bus going. And so they were right in terms of making a hit. And would I rather have a big part in something that isn't a hit, or would I rather be in a hit? I guess I'd rather be in a hit. And I fell in love with Sandra Bullock. There were so many positives with that movie, too. And I came back and did off camera for her after I was dead. And Keanu says, "What are you doing here?" but I loved her, and she asked me if I would do it. And I said, absolutely, I'll do it, just so she could clue into my face easily,
Yeah.
And I would do anything for her. We've done 4 movies together, and she's a great human being. So anyway, I've been very lucky. I've worked with wonderful people my whole career.
Well, in Speed, you'll always have that leg. It was really beautiful.
I'll demonstrate now.
Beth Grant, this has been a total pleasure and so much fun.
I'm just thrilled to meet you. I can't believe your tenacity. I appreciate that so much, because I am a bit of a wackadoodle and I'm all over the place. And I really had hoped to meet you in person in New York, but we did it. And then I will see you when I get there in my new apartment.
Okay. Sometimes when you listen back to the edit, you think, oh, why didn't I respond to that in the moment? Here's the thing. I didn't want to interrupt the beautiful, tremendous, brilliant human that is Beth Grant. But did she say that in the original script, Sandra Bullock's character did stand-up?
Yes, she did.
What a character detail! Beth Grant's character had gone to Sandra Bullock's character's stand-up set. Oh boy, when I listened back to that, I died 1,000 deaths. I love that Beth Grant was like, yeah, originally I got to do more stuff, but then fucking Joss Whedon rolled in and did the rewrite, and I didn't get to do that much, but guess what? It was a huge hit, so that was great. I feel like her perspective on the industry was something we just hadn't heard so far in 90 episodes, and she is so frank and delicious and had so many good stories. The Shelley Winters took me out.
Also, the fact that she called Patrick Swayze Buddy, and I had read something about, like, when I was doing research, I had read that his nickname in, like, his acting class was Buddy, or she said, like, we called him Buddy. So when she was telling the story, I was like, oh, she just, like she just was like Buddy, and I was, like, not explained, and I was like, that is so cool, like, his nickname was Buddy.
Yeah, also Patrick Swayze is just one of the few men that I think is, like, his whole story is so fascinating to me. Love Swayze, love that he loved Maureen Stapleton and Colleen Dewhurst.
Yeah.
Like, he had good taste, and he had good taste because he recognized Beth Grant's beauty and talent as well. Again, we were so blessed to have Miss Beth Grant on this podcast. Also, when she was talking about the Speed story of her leg revealing itself as she goes under the wheels, we were on Zoom with Beth Grant. She lifted up her leg and showed us her leg to do a bit with us, and I said, this woman is for us. She is for us for all time.
You know who else is for us? Our listeners.
Yes.
We want to end this season with some more personalized thank yous for listening. Thank you for following. Thank you for your reviews. Thanks for DMing us and your generous thoughts and your suggestions. So we want to thank Bradley,
James,
Hayward B,
Christian,
Zach,
Audrey,
Hannah,
Julie,
Bridget,
Glenn Marla,
Michael,
Philip,
Mike Beato,
Paul,
Derek,
Ryan,
Patrick,
Amy,
Nancy,
and Kathy. Beautiful Kathy. I feel a little bit emotional because this has been a whirlwind of 15 months for all of us, but we have been doing this. Oh, I'm crying. We've been doing this for 15 months, so thank you so much. I didn't expect to cry, but here we are. It's been a really hard time, but this podcast has brought me a lot of joy. So Damien, thank you. Thank you to our listeners. This has felt like really like one of the best things that I've ever done. And I believe in our project. I believe in getting to hear these women's stories. I'm so excited for the people that we have in the pipeline for the summer. Don't worry. We are taking a little bit of a break, but we are going to be banking interviews with women. So keep sending us those DMs. Let us know when you have somebody that you've got to get on You Might Know Her From.
Oh my God, it's a first. We're both crying. The dog shit in the house. What a day. Folks, yes, thank you. Please stay with us. Stay subscribed. Stay following us. And like these beautiful people we thanked, please leave us a written review. It's the best thing you can do for us to keep doing the thing. It helps the algorithm. It helps boost us. It helps so that we can court new guests and they see that we have 1,500 plus reviews. So please, stick with us and send us a little written review. It can be an emoji or like actor's name, or it can just be a thumbs up. I love it.
Honey Sweetums Chicken Tikkas. Follow us on social media at Damien Bellino and at Rodeman. That's RODEMANNE. We continue all of these sort of shenanigans and BS online. Please interact with us. Have fun. It's summertime. I don't know what I'm doing with that, but I'll still be online.
You Might Know Her From is produced by us. That's Ann Rodeman here and Damien Bellino here. We also want to thank our consultants at Grumpy Entertainment. Geez Louise, we would not know how to put this board together, hit record. The editing would not be what it is. We would not have great people to bounce our ideas off. So thank you so much to Jason Jude Hill and Daniel Sears and all of that peanut butter smooth, as Ann says, Peter Pan, peanut butter smooth. Editing is by the brilliant Daniel Sears.
And obviously the musical bones that hold our shit together. That's Gang. Every song, every piece of music that you hear underscoring each and every episode of You Might Know Her From is by Gang. You can download and stream Gang wherever you listen to music. Also, Sweetums. Did you know I spend a lot of time on the show notes? I do. We put a lot of content in there because I really feel like it's a great resource. So spend some time digging in over the summer. We might even have a little bit of a tidbit to drop to you related to show notes in the coming months. So get into them. I did do what Patricia Velasquez asked us to do. And that is put my intent in writing before I go to bed. That is like, dear, hold on, I have to think.
Dear inner self.
Dear inner self. Yeah, hold on. Should I pull it up?
Yeah.
It said, dear inner self, it is your will. If it is your will, please reveal to me in a dream tonight, ellipsis, right? What you're sort of trying to work on. And it was sort of like, what is blocking me? I don't know specifically what I wrote down, but it was definitely like, how can I continue to be like creatively engaged and all of this? And what resulted from a dream was a sex dream that I had about Madeline Kahn.
What does that mean?
It like literally I was trying to like get creative with myself and like figure out like what is my next step in terms of like trying to make money creatively. I feel like that's what we try to do with this podcast, but we're still paying out of pocket. But it ended with like me in a ballroom having a sex dream with Madeline Kahn, like initiated the sex with me, and I was into it because she's a beautiful woman. But like, what am I supposed to do with that, Patricia?
Patricia says that Madeline Kahn is a part of you.
Right. Anybody in the dream is a part of me.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll take that. But if anybody else out there is a pop psychologizer of dreams, please come at me because like, what am I supposed to do with that? Madeline Kahn initiated. She was the top.